after one of the most frustrating starts ever to a Q&A, even though there's only been one before, we're finally up and running. So, obviously we've got a good angle here, and everyone else is hopefully going to join in soon. So, start getting your questions in as soon as possible, really. I'm happy to answer them whenever. Obviously, if there isn't any question in the event of it, then we'll just talk about yesterday's game, which is something I'm going to do tomorrow anyway. So if you'd like to get your questions in as soon as possible, then that'd be fantastic. And obviously, I know that people will be spending time sort of getting their questions in. Hopefully, we'll get over a viewer retention of 7 today, and hopefully, it's going to be more than 2 or 3 across the length of the video. So, yes, we've got first one. Are my logos any good? So obviously I've changed the current logo of Steal the Puck, the old logo of Steal the Puck to something a bit more modern and a bit newer. And it looks good, really. It looks good across the channel. There's been a lot of good feedback across it. Obviously my girlfriend does my headers, and it's just been me, really, that's on the YouTube channel, obviously. You've only seen my face on here, and no one else, really. And that's hopefully something that's going to change soon, to get more people involved. So yes, I do think the logos are good that you are doing. People seem to be responding well to them, so that's always something that I've aimed to do. Yep. So obviously we're gonna have to wait for questions and stuff like that. And if people do want to ask a question, then feel free. You can ask more than one. Preferably about the Steelers. If you really want to ask a question about the blog, then I'm more than happy to answer that as well. At the end of the day, I didn't create it for now. So what we'll do is we'll start talking about sort of yesterday's game. Obviously against Panthers, a really good win, really classy win, really, especially for our season as a whole. You know, we've got a. What do you think, Steelers fans? Even though, okay, you know what? I'll answer this. What do I think to the Steelers fans leaving before the final, like the final buzzer, even though we were winning? I do think that sometimes there is, like, times where if you need to leave, for example, to avoid traffic, then it can be excused, really. But at the end of the day, if you're winning and you sort of need the win, I wouldn't expect many fans to leave, to be honest. I didn't really see many fans leaving because obviously I don't really pay attention to the fans as much as I do the eyes. But if that's the case, then there might have just been like things that they needed to do. And if that is the case, then, well, good luck to them. Hopefully they got it right. You know, you can't sort of... I don't know. I do think the lads needed a lot of sort of big encouragement, really. But yeah, people sometimes have to leave for other things. Yeah, one of the disallowed goals last night, I believe, should have been allowed. The first one, oh, Christ. I couldn't see what happened, but the second one, why on earth Darnell is blowing that early when a shot's just come in? It's trickling over the line as he's blowing the whistle and he's crossed his arms. Like, surely if you're going to sort of referee a game, you want to let play flow as much as possible and not just blow the play dead. Because at the end of the day, he cost someone a goal-scoring opportunity just from him being early with the whistle. Had he not been early there with the whistle, and had he not wiped out what looked like a good goal for the first one, then we wouldn't have been in the problem that we were last night of only leading 2-1 going into the last few minutes. At the end of the day, if Panthers get an equaliser, you're then looking at them goals thinking, like, why weren't they allowed? Like, number one, Darnell has got to keep the whistle out of his mouth, especially for a shot. When a shot comes through, you wait a couple of seconds and then blow your whistle, or like half a second. You don't just blow it as soon as the keeper traps it. You know, it's pointless because it's going through the keeper. It's going in. You know, it were hilarious, really. But what I can't understand as well is how on earth the referee missed the Panthers' goal. It clearly went into roof at net. Obviously, it were given in the end, but what on earth the two Muppets were doing? Like, the goal's there, the referee's there, and not one of them points into the goal, even though it's quite clearly literally took the roof off the net, and no one's calling a goal on the ice, and then you're having to rewind 2 minutes of play, just for people just being, I don't know, not on the ball, really. and because the referees aren't on the ball, it reflects badly, really. Yeah, I agree. Sort of for both sides last night, the refereeing was very poor. It like if we're gonna get better games, then we have got to sort of get better referees, if you like. How do you think tonight will go? I've said a Steelers win, and I think a 4-2 Steelers win. Reason for that is because I think we're on form at the minute, and I think we can sort of capitalise on our sort of momentum that we gained from last night. Because obviously a win's a win, and you're going to gain momentum going forward if you do sort of get that win. And if you don't get the win, then tonight would have been. I think we would have lost. I think we will lose. Like if we didn't win last night, I think we'd have lost tonight. But because we won last night, I do think we'll go on and win again. Simply because commentary players aren't good. We're not good, but at the end of the day, commentary players are worse than us, and they have been. I mean, they give up a 4-2 lead back in October when we were having a bit of a rut, really stuck in a bit of a rut, you know, and then we won in overtime after being 4-2 down on the night. That were a good day, because at the end of the day, it showed that we actually do have character. Why do we always beat Nottingham no matter how awful we are? I think that basically based on the fact that we had 8,000 fans in the stadium last night, and that gives the players like a huge lift. So their response to the fans, it was great, really. I'm just reading this question. Do you think? Okay. And yeah, and I think the energy that we give the players at home against the Panthers is brilliant, and I do think they can respond to that very easily. Do I think that we will have sort of quite... What the question is do you think we'll gain more points because we have quite an easy weekend coming up? I'll come back to the previous question in a minute. Yeah, I think Dundee and Guildford, is it? Is it Dundee? I think we will have some easy games coming up, and I do think we'll capitalise on them. And the question of are we going to make the playoffs, I think it's really been answered recently. I do think we'll end up making the playoffs quite easily in the end. And people will look back on it like, oh, but we only just scraped them. No, we didn't. We were always going to make them, but at the end of the day, we've got to just push on now for the last 15 games. And if I live to rue this mistake of saying this, and I think we will sort of make the playoffs, we're not going to chance of winning the playoffs. Like if we win the playoffs, I'll buy everyone a pint that follows me on Twitter. You know, there's no chance of that. And I think we've just got to pick points up as they come. So playing against the easier teams would really benefit us, really. So the question before this one was about sort of what the I remember it was about the game last night and why we always seem to beat the Panthers. But what you've got to remember is the Panthers aren't as good as they have been in previous seasons, this season especially. I mean, the Panthers this season are not a patch on what they were a couple of years ago, 3 years ago. Like seriously, they look poor. Like every single place on the ice for the Panthers just looks weak. The goaltender looks weak. He literally spills everything. You know, it's always into the hands of the attackers. And what you've got to remember is the Steelers have always had that home advantage against the Panthers. I mean, Boxing Day, day after Boxing Day, and you've got a packed out arena. Yesterday, you've got a nearly packed out arena. I think there was 500 off being a sellout yesterday. You know, that's the sort of thing that pushes you. That's the sort of thing that pushes you over the line. I can't read that question, unless it's taken the mickey out of how quick I'm speaking. I'm sorry about that. But yeah, so as we were saying, Nottingham fans did leave quick yesterday because literally, if your side's playing like that, I think I'd want to leave straight away. You know, the first minute I think I'd have left. So that's what you got to remember. You know, the Panthers aren't good. Steelers are sort of starting to gain a few bits of momentum here and there. I think we've won 3 out of his last 4 games, and we really need to move forward now. Obviously, the last game we lost was against Cardiff, and we need to sort of build on that energy, really. And tonight, against the Blaze, is a perfect opportunity of just getting a result, whether it's an overtime or a win. And I think we'll win tonight. You know, I don't normally come into games anymore thinking, oh yeah, the Steelers are going to win. But tonight I really do. And I think we'll end up winning, as I've said, about 4-2. So it for one, yesterday's performance really built on it, built on this side, and I do think with confidence comes results. And tonight, if that confidence that we carried from yesterday has got to push us over the line, otherwise, we're going to be back to square one again, and people aren't going to people are going to see us as the weaker team in the league. So, Tanner or Wist for man of the match yesterday. Tanner Rebel has got to be my man of the match for yesterday. Absolutely fantastic, all over the ice, absolutely brilliant. Chasing down pucks, he will hit anything. Like literally, he will hit anyone, and I don't think he'd care. I think he'd sprint about 20 yards to throw a hit at someone, and even if it's called a penalty, then I just don't think he'd care at all. I love him. I think he's an excellent player. At the end of the day, he's come in and he's had big shoes to fill in the position that he plays. I mean, you've got people like Levi Nelson who used to play in that position, and Tanner Early's come in and he's cemented his place in the side, and he's showing other players what sort of momentum you need to have. Yeah, I'm not taking anything away from Whistle's performance yesterday. I thought he played really well. At the end of the day, he was stood on his head for a couple of opportunities that the Panthers had, and obviously they only scored once that should have been cleared by the defence. I'm sorry, but someone's just bang open in the middle, and he just slots it high over Whistle. But definitely Tanner Eberle for my man of the match yesterday. Did you think Chris Stewart was a bad signing for the Panthers? I mean, I did a video on the scouting network that we could have in the league, sort of why it may benefit us, sort of why it may not benefit the league. But I do think that that could be a potential sort of showing of what happens if you just base your signings on elite prospects. Because Chris Stewart has got an excellent CV, having played in the NHL, having played in the bigger leagues, and obviously him coming to the Panthers, you saw him a little bit like Brian McGrattan, if you like. So obviously McGrattan was a huge forward, but this guy, this Chris Stewart, has come in and he could be doing the similar things to sort of what old sort of NHL players that have come to the IHL have done, and sort of tear it up a little bit. I mean, is it Bissonnette or something like that who used to play for the Devils? I wasn't a hockey fan back then because obviously I was a big football fan, and I don't really know that well, but apparently someone like that came into the IHL and really sort of tore it up a little bit. And they were all used to be saying like that's what Barry McGrattan should be doing. He should be coming into the IHL and tearing it up, just like other big names have. But he didn't. And this Chris Stewart is a similar sign to Brian McGrattan in the fact that he has had the big league experience and the fact that he has got a good CV. Not necessarily about his playing style or how much he plays. It's based on his past and his stats from other leagues. So yes, I do think that Chris Stewart was a poor signing for the Panthers, because it's just based on stats. It's not really based on how the player plays. They brought him in just to see if he could sort of like shake it up a little bit for him, but he hasn't really added much to them. Obviously, me not being a Panthers fan, I'd love to hear sort of a Panthers perspective on him. But with me not being a Panthers fan, I don't know what he's like. But I don't even think he was in the game yesterday. Did he even play? He didn't seem to put his weight around or anything. And people have commented on sort of how overweight he was when he first came to the Panthers and stuff like that. Well, having a year out of hockey, which is showing for him, I don't think that you can really complain that much. I expected nothing less from him. I said at the time, that's just an elite prospect signing. And so did David Sims, for example. They all said it sort of, oh, that's such an elite prospect signing, that's just a stats-based signing. And yeah, I just think he's been a poor signing. Yes, I do. And at the end of the day, the Steelers recruitment needs to be done in the off-season. It needs to be better, because this season we can all admit that it was poor. Paul Thompson's normally really good with his recruitment, but he's never really been able to sign a first-line forward, sort of in his sort of managerial career with the Steelers, except Vesberg. Vesberg might have been second or third line. I can't really remember because it's a couple of years ago now. But him signing him, he's never really been able to sign an out-and-out first-line forward, if you know what I mean. So Barrasso is apparently sort of, I don't think he's going to be back next season, because I don't think we're going to offer him a contract. Well, I think we have, but but I think he's declined it. And that's what I've heard from various different people, so I don't know whether to believe it or not. I don't think you guys should believe it or not, because at the end of the day, no one really knows, because it's all behind a bit of a sort of like a door, isn't it? Sort of what goes off behind the scenes. It's not like football. You don't get like a scoop. You don't get a sort of rumours. You don't get all this. You just get, what you get. You just get a signing announcement, and that's it. And I think that detracts from the league as well, sort of how we don't have any signing like rumours and stuff to get people more involved. We just have an announcement, and everyone gets shot down when they just even like do a rumour. I think someone got blocked from the Steelers' Twitter or a hockey team's Twitter for literally putting a rumour out there and it being true, and that's the sort of thing I think we need to eradicate. I went off on a tangent then, but it does annoy me a little bit that at the end of the day, our recruitment has got to be, it's vital in this off season, because it's going to make or break our next season. And whether it's Tom Barrasso or not doing that recruitment, I don't care. But we need some more confidence within the fan base, and we need some more confidence within this Steelers side. So that's my opinion on that. And yeah, it is frustrating, I must admit, because this season has real promise before the season had started to be better and to be more sort of. We looked like we were going to press on at the start of the season, but in reality, we got a bit shot down. First game of the season against MK Lightning, the recruitment was just showing to be terrible. Matt and Ryan Rupert, they're tearing it up now in the other league that they're in. And you just think, are they really the same players? Because they were dreadful when they were at Steelers. Like Ijiri Gula, he lasted about 13 games, scored 1 goal. And now he's scoring I think he's scored quite a few with his new team. It's like a revolving door sometimes at the Steelers. But at the end of the day, people said to me, George, why do you think this is a revolving door? And it's because the recruitment was just so bad. Why do you think we beat Lexlands with this team? To be honest, if you remember, we played Solitalia in the previous off-season, and we beat them, and that was a really good result. And I think Lexlands was just a case of, yeah, we've got the momentum, we've got the crowd behind us, we want to make an impression. But if you remember, we then went to play Lexlands the day after and lost about 7-0. I wasn't at both games, I was on holiday, so I didn't get to see that first Steelers side. And apparently it was unrecognisable compared to now. Jordan Owens get the opening goal. I literally watched the highlights the other day of that game, and we looked so fast and so quick, and we looked like we wanted to get to every loose puck. It was great to watch, and you just look at that team now, and you're thinking, like, is this really the same team, or is this just a wind-up? Has this season genuinely been a wind-up, or is it just real? Because that team looked like they had potential, but this team looked like they literally could go out and lose against, like they could lose against the Blaze tonight. That team that we saw in the off-season, the first game, would have beat Blaze about 10-0. They were at it from the start. They got on to pucks, fired shots, literally was all over a team that are renowned for being good. Ben O'Connor was there, and he was one of the worst defensemen. He's one of our best defensemen. That's the sort of shifting sort of quality that there was there. Yet we still managed to beat them 4-2. Best goalie in the league? Beskorowany. I've said it so many times about him. He's absolutely, I think he's phenomenal. Like, I know I'll get a few brownie points off Giants fans here, but seriously. And it's not Matt Ginn or whatever he's called from Manchester. He's rubbish. It genuinely, like, every time I see that Ginn play, he's either fluffed his lines or he just keeps sort of knocking out rebounds left, right and centre. Whereas Beskorowany just holds everything, he seems to anyway. There's only one rebound I think he gave up, and it was against Dowd, and we managed to score a second goal at the arena. But every time I watch Beskorowany play, he's fantastic. I mean, for the Edinburgh Capitals, he was absolutely phenomenal. Like, he had no defence in front of him, because they were all little kids or really inexperienced players last year for the Capitals. And obviously they've gone buffs now, but it's and it's obviously he's good, very good. He knows how to play in net. And someone just put, come and see Gin, the best player in the league. He's honestly, is it Gin? I don't know how to pronounce his name, but he, the advert that the Manchester put out the other day, just very frustrating. He can't be the best goalie in the league. Um, Thoughts on Carson Sheahan signing for the Steelers in wake of Matt Climie? Climie was one of my loves. I think I really did like Matt Climie. I think everyone knows as well that I preferred Matt Climie to Whistle. In the way that he sort of conducts himself. I preferred him. I thought he had more confidence. I thought he had more about him than Whistle. Obviously, Whistle has really stepped up his game now. But bringing in Carson Sheahan from the Capitals, I wish we'd have brought in Beskar Awani from the Capitals in off-season, but we didn't. And Carson Sheahan has obviously played in the Elite League. He's obviously a decent keeper, although if he wasn't, then he wouldn't have played. I think he's got an 87%, 0.87 goals, save percentage, or something like that. So that's not great. You need to be looking at like a 0.92 if you're going to be sort of a competent out-and-out keeper. Like, not necessarily competent, but if you're a starting goalie, you need to be sort of on a 9.92, 0.92. And with that, you've got a keeper like Jackson Whistle who's sort of barely got a defensive front of him. Now, Carson Sheahan, if you swapped him for Brad Day, I do think that personally, if I was going to choose a goalie to back up Jackson Whistle, it would be Sheahan, because I think Day would be better off sort of going to play for an NIHL side and get some real sort of play minutes, racking up his racking up his save percentage. I think he'd be excellent with an NIHL side, and then maybe coming back to the Steelers in a few years. But yeah, I think Sheahan would be better on the bench for Whistle in case he gets injured. That's just my personal opinion. And that'll lead me on to the next question. Do you think Day will be here for the next season? Personally, not. I think Brad Day will probably leave at the end of the season or get the boot. For no other reason than literally he hasn't really got much time this season. He's not necessarily going to get much time, especially with the new goaltender coming in. And obviously in the off-season there's a chance to sign even more goaltenders or another goaltender. So, no, I don't think Brad Day will be here. Obviously he's a Sheffield lad, he only lives at like Shalesmore or something like that. And coffee's gone cold. And he's not that good really. Sorry, not. I'm on about something else. I'm on about coffee. No, I don't think Brad Day will be in the off-season because he is a local lad. And I think he may be able to recognise that if he went and played for another side, maybe a lower level team, that he would be a better goaltender and he would sort of learn from it a bit more. So he's not really learning much by sitting on the bench for the past 4 years. That's what he's done. And if we signed someone to give Whistle competition, I've never really understood the reason for getting rid of Climie, because I don't think there is one, other than the fact he just got boot one day. I just think that if we brought in a more experienced backup, then I think that we would be better off, because at the end of the day we'd feel less under pressure, sort of if we needed to bring Day in. The best game I remember Day having was against the Devils in 2000. Oh, look at this. I've got my mock soul next week. I can just remember stuff like this. So, 2016 January. Brad Day swaps for Marek Pinch against the Cardiff Devils because Marek Pinch got absolutely clattered by one of the Devils players, sent him up flying in the air, and Day had to come in. And Day only conceded one goal. I think it was for about 30 minutes. Against the Devils, who were high-flying at that point. Obviously, that's the year that we went on to win the league, and that was a pivotal game. This is even better. Jason Hewitt, Vesberg, and Ryan Hayes got the goals for the Steelers in a 3-2 win. Absolutely unbelievable. I can remember all that stuff, but at the end of the day, it's one of them things, isn't it? But yeah, I do think that Brad Day will leave in the off season. I don't know. I just think he will. Why did Nelson retire? I don't know. It's a shame really that he did, because at the end of the day, Nelson was a really pivotal player, really excellent, like on the ice, off the ice, whenever you wanted him, absolutely fantastic. And I thought that him as a player really added a lot to the team. But what I think Tanner Eberle's done well is he's recognised that we have lost a player like that, and we haven't got him anymore, and he's sort of stepped his game up completely. I think he reckons. I think he sort of recognises like what sort of situation we're in with the side, and I just think that we do miss Nelson as well. I think I've got about 4 minutes left in this Q&A, so if you just want to get some questions in now, just ping them at me. I'm only going for half an hour today, because of other commitments. I've got all my mocks next week, so I want to do some revision for them. So for the last few minutes or so, I'm going to talk about sort of tonight, what we can expect. One, we can expect to win. I'm telling you now, on this video, we're going to win tonight, because at the end of the day, Coventry haven't been that great in this season. So what more can you expect than just to win? You know, I'm feeling really confident, you know, and I hope a lot of the fan base are as well. They've got like quite a good Ben Lake, is it, who plays for the Coventry players? I'm sure he's quite a good player. He's got a lot of points anti this season. We're not going to lose, I'm telling you, Zico. We're not going to lose, I'm telling you now. Because at the end of the day, we're going to go to the Blaze. I reckon we'll go and take it to the Blaze. I reckon we'll come out 4-2 winners, as I've said. If you want to know some scorers, like in case I get it right, I'm just going to fire some names at you. I think, let's do it like Pitt, O'Connor, DeLuca and Eberle. 4-2. I'm saying it. What did you think of Brown and Whistle last night? I thought Brown was excellent. I said it last week. I said Kieran Brown just needs more ice time and he'll improve vastly. I said he's underrated. You know, last night he comes on, throws a couple of hits, like literally is a threat going forward. Brandon Whistle, I didn't really see much of Brandon Whistle, which was a bit of a shame, because I normally like Brandon Whistle, but I just didn't think he really stepped up his game as much as he normally does last night. But Kieran Brown, I think he really is trying to prove a point that, yeah, you're not picking me, but this is what I can do, or this is what I can do. That is what I can do. It'd be great if he scores. Do you think Liam Kirk could ever return to the Steelers in years' time? It'd be bloody nice, wouldn't it, if Liam Kirk came back to us? Like, he's tearing it up in the OHL. He's tearing it up with like players that are 2 years above him, like who are all at similar ability, and he's scoring like he's like on fire. We massively miss Liam Kirk. I said it to my mate who came to Steelers yesterday. We just completely miss Liam Kirk, and if we had him, I don't think we'd sort of be in the rut that we are. You know, going forward, I think that we'd be more sort of competent, and we'd end up scoring more goals, because he's a really quick young lad who literally, I think we've missed him ever since he left, and it's frustrating that he has left, because obviously no one wanted to see him go, because he was a homegrown talent from Maltby. You know, it's only a little town on the outskirts of Sheffield, sort of in Rotherham area, and it were an excellent achievement for the club to bring a player into it like that, into the system, sort of show what they can do, and then obviously offload them in the off season to get drafted to the Arizona Coyotes. Obviously Peterborough Petes, who are about a 2-day travel from Arizona. I remember last time I did a video on that I ended up saying that it's only a short drive to Arizona from Peterborough. Turns out it's thousands of miles. I wish the Capitals drafted him. Are you a Capitals fan? I'm guessing from that, because if they drafted him, I think he'd do even better, to be honest, because Coyotes a bit lower down. I don't really follow the NHL. Yes, you are a Capitals fan. I'm an LA Kings fan, so I wish he went there, to be honest. Playing obviously for yeah, it's just up the road. Yeah, I know you did, Lee. Thank you. Yeah, it's one of them for Liam Kirk. So I'm going to end it here. I hope you've all enjoyed this Q&A. I really enjoy doing these. I love doing these every Sunday. It's great. Um, I hope to see. It's like the same people. I like this. I like it's like a little community. I hope to see you all again next week, and I'll produce something. I'll probably record something tonight, produce it tomorrow,